My wife whispered it in her sleep. She said, "It lives beneath our feet." Those words might mean nothing to you, but they were the exact words my grandfather, who had dementia, used to say. He was a man my wife never met. That day, her words brought back horrific childhood memories I thought I had buried long ago. I believed I had left those unspeakable terrors behind, but when she spoke, I was no longer sure. My grandfather said, "It lives beneath our feet. Don't look into its eyes or it will come for you." "Yes, Dad," my parents would sigh. "Eat your breakfast." My grandfather Tom had dementia, so our family was used to his random cryptic outbursts. They spilled from his dry, trembling lips. Looking back, I know he had every reason to be afraid. He was not as irrational as we thought. Dementia is a cruel disease. It strips people of their senses. I clearly remember my grandfather Tom as a sharp and intelligent man. I was young, but in his final year when I was 15, the grandfather I knew was gone. It feels harsh to say, but anyone who has watched a loved one suffer from this disease would understand exactly what I mean. It became even more unsettling when he repeated the same phrase endlessly. He would say, "Beneath our feet, it lives beneath our feet." I asked, "Grandpa, why do you keep saying that?" His cloudy eyes shifted from the meadow outside and met mine. For a moment, I felt overwhelming joy. A spark of humanity flickered in his gaze. It was one of those rare, precious moments when he recognized me. He said, "Oh, Henry, you're still awake. It's only 6 in the evening." I smiled and replied, "We haven't even had dinner yet." He nodded, cleared his throat, and said, "It's chilly for this time of year, isn't it?" "October already." I responded, "I'm not too cold for this season, Grandpa." His eyes grew vacant again. He muttered, "I thought it was July 10th. I thought I was somewhere else." I nodded and looked out at the meadow. The daylight was fading, casting a glow on the thick, tangled grass of the abandoned farmland. My mother always wanted to use that land, but Grandpa forbade it. He often said, "There's plenty of land behind the house. You inherited 250 acres. All I ask is that you leave the meadow alone." These were his firm words when he was still lucid. In his final years, he rarely showed even a hint of his old personality. He seldom said anything except, "It lives beneath our feet." I spoke carefully and asked, "Grandpa, why do you keep saying that?" He sighed and stared at the meadow. He said, "You'll see, Henry, I've warned you enough." The next day, I asked my mother about his behavior. She bit her lip, holding back tears. She had cried so much before. It must have been agonizing to adjust to the cruel disease tormenting her father. I think she mourned him long before he actually passed. She nodded and said, "It's hard, isn't it, Henry? He's in pain and so are we. But I don't think there's any reason for him to fear the meadow." I pressed, "Really, even before he got sick, he warned us about it." She hugged me tightly. She said, "I wish there was a reason for his illness, Henry, but life is cruel sometimes. I only hope you never see me or your father like that." My father spent much of his time searching for a nursing home for Grandpa, but nothing ever satisfied my mother. Deep down, we all knew no place would be good enough. My father just wanted to keep her happy during Grandpa's final years. The day Grandpa died was what truly terrified us. I called out Grandpa into the darkness. Everyone else was asleep, but I was sitting with him on the porch. I thought he felt safer keeping an eye on the meadow. He never liked staying inside. That night, I made a mistake. I ran into the house to grab a snack. When I returned, Grandpa was gone. Panicked, I grabbed a flashlight. My 9-year-old sister Cynthia stood at the front door, rubbing her sleepy eyes, holding a glass of water. She asked, "What are you doing, Henry?" I said, "Go back to bed." She asked, "Is Grandpa out there?" I lied. "Yes, go say goodnight to him." She ran past me before I could stop her. I chased after her clumsily, but she reached the porch looking confused. She asked, "Is Grandpa here?" I said, "Go to bed, Cynthia." My voice was louder than I meant. I added, "Henry, where is he? Go to bed. It's not a big deal." She said, "Should we tell Mom and Dad?" I replied, "No need. Stay calm. I'll find him. Come with me and hold the flashlight." Her face lit up and she smiled. Making her feel grown up was the easiest way to convince her. She nodded eagerly. I handed her the flashlight and said, "We need to be very quiet. Okay, Mom will be upset if she finds out." I held her hand as we walked toward the meadow. She lit the path while I pushed aside tall grass. It had been years since Dad mowed it, tired of Grandpa's warnings about the meadow's dangers. Some grass was as tall as Cynthia. I said, "Raise the flashlight a bit. Your arm hurts, doesn't it?" She replied, "No, I can do it." With determination. I said, "Okay." Then I gasped, "Oh no." I put a finger to my lips and shook my head. Cynthia understood and stayed silent. I saw a man's shadow a few meters ahead. It had to be Grandpa, but I told Cynthia to be quiet because I was terrified. I noticed something else, Blood. Red stains marked the grass near where he stood. I took the flashlight from Cynthia and whispered, "Grandpa." He turned his head slightly, but stopped as if forcing himself not to look at us. Then he let out a guttural, agonizing growl, a sound no human, especially someone as frail as him, should make. He said, "Beneath our feet." Then he vanished from sight with a rustling of grass and earth shifting below where he stood. Cynthia grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. I can still feel that grip sometimes, her fear clinging to me. She trembled and asked, "Henry, where did he go?" Before I could answer, her body fell to the ground. She screamed in terror. I shone the flashlight, but I couldn't see clearly. Something was moving beneath the grass, dragging her away. Without thinking, I dove forward and grabbed her. She screamed, "Henry!" I felt something like a branch wrapped around her leg. At least it felt like a branch, but its skin made me shudder. It was almost human flesh, yet not human. Definitely not a tree branch. It was alive, pulling her toward a dark, empty void, the same hole that took Grandpa. I refused to let it take my sister. I smashed the flashlight into the writhing limb. A horrific screech came from the hole. It worked and the limb released her. I pulled her up and shouted, "Run home! Tell Mom and Dad!" I fell, feeling something cold like vines gripping my ankle. Trying not to scare Cynthia, I fought the revulsion. I looked into her terrified, tear-filled eyes and repeated, "Go!" As she ran toward the house, screaming for our parents, the limb pulled me into the void. I tumbled into darkness, hitting the ground hard. The fall broke 3 of my ribs, but I didn't notice until the panic subsided. I whispered, "Grandpa," into the dark. My flashlight lay on the ground, faintly illuminating a tunnel stretching beyond the meadow. I realized I was in a real underground labyrinth beneath our feet. Holding the flashlight, I wondered if I could find him. Then he answered with a blood-curdling scream like before. He whispered, "It's here." It was the loudest whisper I ever heard coming from a tunnel behind me. I turned slowly, facing the most terrifying sight of my life. Grandpa lay in the tunnel, his arm bloodied, pointing at me. His eyes were the clearest and most alive they had been in years. He truly saw me in that moment, but I wished he hadn't. I wished dementia had clouded his mind then. Maybe that moment wouldn't have been so horrific for him. Towering behind him was the monstrous creature that dragged us down. It had countless arms like dry branches sprouting from a black insect-like body. Its haunting face stared at me, covered in eyes like a fly's, but each eye was human with distinct irises and pupils. That made it utterly inhuman. Its gaping mouth revealed rows of teeth. I stood frozen in horror as the creature sank its terrifying fangs into Grandpa. He screamed, blood pouring from his convulsing mouth as he endured his final moments being devoured alive. I dropped the flashlight to free my hands and scrambled up the steep, dirt-covered wall of the hole's entrance. The creature was fast. I screamed as its arms clawed at me, wrapping around my neck. For every meter I climbed, it pulled me back too. Grandpa fell silent. The sounds from the tunnel showed the creature was consuming his body. I heard my parents' voices in the distance. I shouted, "Mom, Dad, I'm down here." The creature's noises stopped. I grabbed the flashlight and shone it into the tunnel. Grandpa's body lay motionless in the mud, but the branch-like creature had fled. Strange sounds began surrounding me. I looked up, seeing the horror of what it planned next. Its grotesque arms stretched like a web, sealing the hole's exit. My parents would never find me. Driven by fear and a desperate need to see my family, I clawed my way up the darkening hole one last time. The arms gripped me, but I fought harder than ever. To escape, I did something that still haunts me. I sank my teeth into one of the creature's arms. It let out a scream twice as loud as before, recoiling for a moment. That brief pause let me slip through a narrow gap and grab the grass above. I dragged myself onto the meadow and stood seeing my parents just meters away. They rushed to me, enveloping me in an emotional embrace, almost making me forget the horror I left behind. The most unsettling part was when I looked back. The hole's entrance had vanished along with any trace of Grandpa. I knew what happened, but how could I tell my parents? They wouldn't believe me. Besides, Grandpa was already gone in their eyes. This happened 15 years ago. The lack of closure still troubles my mother, but it's better she doesn't know what happened to him. I can never forget his warning. He said, "Don't look into its eyes or it will come for you." Why did my wife say his words last night? The thing beneath the ground came for him, and I fear it's coming for me now. I haven't gone camping in years, so I thought I was safe. But maybe Grandpa didn't realize the true weight of his words. Perhaps it doesn't live only in the meadow. I often hear noises from the garden behind our house. Maybe it has always lived beneath our feet. This story doesn't have many twists, but it's chilling. There's a creature like a centipede with human-like arms resembling branches and a face with countless eyes. It's terrifying, right? It sounds a bit like the monster from Stranger Things, doesn't it? Let's set the creature aside and talk about the main character's fate. What Henry went through likely happened to his grandfather, once haunting him for life. This creature seems to target those it has already terrified. Henry experienced it, so he understands its horror deeply. I think Henry will eventually be dragged down and devoured, and his wife might be next. That's my guess. What do you think? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to support the channel. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye and see you soon.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, drop a comment below. And please like, share and subscribe my channel.